Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. It's me, Dezi, and you're in the place to be if you love all things magical, mystical, and mysterious. Today's video, we're actually be doing something a little bit different that I want to continue onto this channel going forward, and we're going to be diving into the magical realm of the Fae. More specifically, what the Fae are, and how to work with them, and how you can begin to see them in this little series that I'm starting today. The Fae is actually more specifically a broad spectrum term for a lot of creatures that are falling under this umbrella that do include fairies, and today we'll be focusing on fairies, but also include like nymphs and sylphs and dryads, salamanders, gnomes, etc. Even the unicorn could be considered to be one of these creatures that are considered to be under the Fae spectrum. Now, I know a lot of you, our main experience with the fairy is going to be like Tinkerbell, like in the Disney films. And that is honestly not entirely correct. A lot of people see them as this cute little thing with wings that has magical fairy dust, and it's cutesy, and that's their experience. Now, being serious, it's actually more of the comical version of what the fairy would be. There are some fairies that may look beautiful and have the cute little wings and the sparkly little bits. That's not all the fairy species that there are. Even within the term the Fae, the fairy themselves have different species within themselves that look very different, act very different, and portray themselves very differently depending on what they want to portray themselves as towards you. If you're lucky enough to see a fairy and they want to present themselves to you, they'll actually present themselves to you as something that you're most comfortable with, as to not scare you off. Now, it's important to not look down on the fairy and actually to either put them either at your level or a bit above you, because a lot of these fairies were actually considered to be ancient gods and goddesses and were worshipped back in the day and are still worshipped today. So as a respect level, you should really be putting them above you and not to disrespect them by talking down or belittling them. As an example, in ancient folklore, in one of the legends, from Morgan the Fae is actually descendant from the war goddess, the Morgan. So you can see very quickly how looking down on the Fae as this cutesy little thing could become troublesome. So just hold that little bit of respect there for them, as they are considered to be a god or a goddess to many, many people still today, as well as even just the personification of nature itself. Some people believe that the Fae and fairies are actually this spirits of nature, and it's not necessarily true. I see them more as the personification of the nature spirit that protects it and tends to it and stands guard over it. The Fae were made famous by Celtic folklore, specifically through the area of Europe. They are actually very special because they actually have different ways of doing things. They have their own traditions and they have their own protocols and their own hierarchy as well. So they're known for being very mischievous and free-spirited and kind of sneaky. And it's because if you do not treat them a certain way, they're going to be a little bit of a trickster towards you because they feel disrespected, or they feel like you don't deserve to speak to them, so they may lash out a little bit. Or if you're infringing on the planet or on the earth of some sort, you're littering, something like that, they may play tricks on you. The Fae are actually on a different realm than us. They used to live on this earthly realm back in the day when people would still see them more often, when people had more of a belief and a less likelihood of catching them on film. But now, these days, people don't really believe them as much, and people are very destructive, and they have forced themselves onto a different dimension to avoid destruction and infringement on their safety. They dwell on the elemental dimension, and there are actually 11 different realms. And I'm really excited to get into a video all about just specifically the realms themselves. But they dwell on the elemental realm, and sometimes when you're able to see them, what's happening actually is the two realms are colliding and meshing together, and you're able to see a door open, and you're able to see them, and they're able to see you. Now let's talk a little bit about fairy etiquette. Number 1, don't use iron. They don't like it. Kind of like they're allergic to it. They just don't like it. They're adverse to it. So if you want to work with them or experience them, don't carry iron and don't work with it within your practice, or try to avoid the use of it in your everyday life as best you can. The next thing that fairies don't like is that humans destroy nature like crazy. It is literally insane how we're able to just consume and toss away, consume and toss away. So the number 1 thing when you're working with fairies and working with them within your practice, or wanting to experience them and see them, is you need to be so careful about how you interact with nature and how you're treating nature itself, because that's really the number 1 thing for them. That is their main purpose, is to protect nature and to allow it to flourish. So when you're damaging their baby, they're not going to want to mess around with you. So if you want to work with them, become a guardian of the earth, because they are guardians of the earth. Plant trees, plant flowers, plant seeds, and take care of it. Pick up garbage and try to reduce your earth footprint, and be very careful about water wastage and all of that. Make sure that you leave offerings for them. They love sweet things. They love sweet milk, and they love sugar and sweet cakes. So you can leave offerings for them either on your altar or in your garden if you have a really nice, beautiful garden. I actually make a love sugar just specifically for the fae that I sprinkle onto my garden every season before I turn it over, as an offering to the earth and to the fae as well. And you can do something like that, or you can leave an offering every few days of water. I like to fill a little seashell of water in my garden, and making sure it's never mucky and always fresh, filled with water. When the water becomes a little bit mucky, I like to pour it out over my plants, clean it out, and fill it up with fresh water again. They really enjoy that and appreciate that. Make sure you always leave an offering if you take anything from nature to use in your craft, or to repurpose in your home or anything like that. And always be grateful and courteous of the environment. Make sure you're not taking things that are living. If it's dead and fallen and can be used like a twig on the ground, as opposed to pulling something off of a living tree, be very mindful and cognizant of that. I never take anything off of a living plant. So, and make sure you're asking for things too. If you're going to be plucking herbs from the garden that is not yours, from the earth that's not yours, that make sure that you ask and you receive some type of message that is okay, or some type of feeling that it is okay. And then make sure you leave an offering, like maybe planting more of that same plant in that area so that it can regrow and replenish itself. They don't want you to say thank you. Don't just say, ooh, thank you, and take kind of what you want from them. They'd rather you take what you need and then leave an offering or an act of service for them. So if that's picking up trash off the beach or planting seeds, that's the kind of thing that they're looking for. Lying is not acceptable. If you're gonna lie and work with the fairies, it's just not gonna work. That's it. That's just, it's done. It's not gonna work. They will not work with you ever again. Just don't do it. That's my tip. Just don't lie. One, it's kind of crappy to do and a shitty thing to do as a person. But number 2 is they just won't do it. So be careful. If you're a liar or like to fib or bend the truth a little bit, don't do it. You can't. You have to be brutally honest and truthful. Some of the offerings that are quite popular are sweet cakes, milk, honey, anything that's kind of sweet. You can give them fresh berries, anything like that. They love fresh tastes and they love sweet things. They also love anything shiny. They're known to like to look at themselves and to admire the beauty in things. So I actually like to leave shiny objects in my garden that are sparkly, that are safe to the environment, safe to the animals. So large stones that are painted beautifully for them, or I like to press glass mirror into cement and decorate it with beautiful stones. I like to leave larger crystals that are safe for outside, that are safe in my garden, that won't leach chemicals or toxins into the earth, or won't deteriorate from the sun or water. You can leave them in the earth as well, and they really enjoy that. It's really good for your plant babies as well. When you give them the offerings, they actually take the energy essence from the food. They don't actually consume it. They are on a different earthly plane. They're able to utilize that essence in any way they see fit on the other side. Another main rule to focus on is don't eat the food that you're offering them. Just don't do it. They don't like it. For one of the main things in a lot of the legends is those that eat the food of the Fae don't leave the Fae realm. So just don't do it. It's a no-go. Don't do it. It's their offering. It's an offering of taking things from yourself to them. It's a gift. Do not take back your gift. So if you want to disappear, cool, eat the fairy food. But if you don't eat it. Just don't do it. Fairies are actually often seen with a lot of different type of natural creatures, like horses and dogs and cats and birds, beetles, and even mythical creatures like dragons and unicorns. And especially cows and pigs. And sometimes fairies will actually take the shape of the animals that they dwell around. So that's it for the video today, guys. I hope you enjoyed how to begin to work with the Fae and approaching them in the right way. Make sure that you do a little bit of research as well. Not everything was included in here. This is just a general basis of my experience in my personal witchcraft experience. So make sure you subscribe to the channel and hit that little bell notification so you don't miss out on a video, because I will be posting my how I saw my first fairy experience, a story time, how I first experienced the Fae and the whole paranormal experience about it, and kind of my thoughts behind it. So if you want to see that, the video will be linked up in the card or in the description below. And I hope you guys have an amazing day. Peace, lovelies.